join me as for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Right shoulder!
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We pray for the grace to forgive, that our hearts would be large enough to forgive those people who struck our nation.
Now it is my pleasure to welcome another individual who really needs no introduction. Since 2001, Stephen F. Lynch has been representing the 9th Congressional District, of which Brockton is a part. In that time, he has worked diligently advocating for the needs of Brockton residents. Congressman Lynch is a member of the Subcommittee on National Security, Homeland Defense, and Foreign Operations, and continues to serve as the co-chair of the Task Force on Terrorism and Proliferation Financing, which is a bipartisan congressional panel that monitors the status of national and international efforts to track and stop the flow of funds to terrorist groups and works to strengthen our national anti-terrorist finance strategy. There is no one that I would like to be able to have share with me this day than this gentleman. Please join me in welcoming Congressman Stephen F. Lynch.
The evidence that we received as members of that oversight committee in reviewing the attacks on September 11th came as a result of, we listened to a lot of transmissions that day. A lot of transmissions in New York and at the Pentagon. We listened to some of the phone calls on the planes. But one of the transmissions that just struck me for its clarity and its power was the fact that we heard some firefighters on the radio responding to one of their officers who was lower down in the building. These firefighters, who, when the attacks occurred, they had already finished their shift. So they had already been in work for about 12 hours. And then they were called to respond to the attacks in the South Tower. These radio transmissions came from the 82nd floor of the South Tower. So those firefighters had to go up through the smoke and flames. 82 floors they climbed, and saving people all along the way. That is just superhuman courage and just bravery beyond belief, what those firefighters did. We also lost 61 police officers. We lost dozens of EMS workers and Port Authority workers in New York that day. I remember marveling at the unity between Democrats and Republicans when I got to Washington following the attacks of September 11th. I think we need a bit more of that today. I remember Brockton and how Brockton responded. I remember Chief Galligan. I remember dozens of Brockton firefighters who went down to New York to help their brothers. I remember many of the police officers, some of whom are here today. I'll name a few: James Baroud, Officer Darvin Anderson, Robert Smith, Mike Clifford, Bob DeLito, Keith Boehner, all Brockton police officers who went down to New York City during a very dangerous time. The environmental problems around the two towers and the threat of asbestos inhalation was still hanging in the air. But Brockton responded. May God bless the city of Brockton, and may God continue to bless these United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. I can say on behalf of everybody that we're very proud to have you among us as well. Thank you. Chief of the Police Department, Brockton Police Department, Chief William Conlon.
As I look over at the have here of our police and firefighters, I'll tell you how incredibly proud and honored I am to lead these men and women that serve us so brilliantly every day. This city is well served by the public safety personnel that we have here. They are when you think about 9/11, today was billed as remembrance of the public safety and honoring public safety personnel. But there were so many other heroes that day as well. When we responded to those towers, the public safety in New York City, as others were rushing out, let's remember that the firefighters, police, EMTs were rushing in. That's what public safety is all about. We're the last line of defense. And we're there for you every day, every minute of every day. I think sometimes that gets overlooked. And when you think all the planning that went into this, these people that were the terrorists, they came to our country. They used our resources. They took flight instruction at our schools. They boarded our planes filled with our people, and they crashed into our towers. It was despicable. How do you fight against something like that? I think the best way is we don't forget what happened, but we also don't become like them. We can't afford to be filled with hate. It has so changed us in our feelings of trust and vulnerability and looking for somebody to hold responsible. Certainly we have to be guarded. We have to take whatever precautions and fight the good fight, but we can't become hate-filled. There's a saying that hung on one of the walls in the police station for a long time. It said, hate and bitterness are like an acid. They do more damage to the vessel in which they are stored than to the object upon which they are poured. And I think that's true. If we hold hate and bitterness within ourselves, it will rot us from within. We've got to rise above this. And I think Americans are very good at doing that and always have been and will continue to. Terrorism has cost us tremendously. It has hurt our economy. And that was their goal, was to cripple us. We can't afford to be crippled. We can't give in to this. We've got to be united, as the congressman said. We need more of that fervor that we had in the days and weeks following 9/11. We've got to continue with that, not quarrel amongst ourselves. And we have to know that we fight a fight right here at home, a drug war. And in many ways, that was what financed this, the terrorists. Poppy that makes heroin, it's a big crop over there. And who are the main consumers of that crop? Our own young people right here in the United States, sadly. It cost us tremendously in terms of suffering, lost lives, economic destruction, personal anguish to families. It just is endless. So we have to remember that, in a way, we have to be responsible for our own fates. Direct your young people not to get involved in this. Pay attention to your kids. They are our greatest resource, and they're our future, and we don't want to see it wasted. Thank you.